What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I had a request from a subscriber to give my take on how Bill Walton would fare in today's NBA. And I have to admit, it's really difficult to pinpoint this, like to say, because of a number of factors. I mean, we can never be totally certain how a player would fare in a game. I mean, you're just guessing. But, that's what I'm doing. I'm guessing. Not saying I'm right, but I'm guessing. He was extraordinarily fundamentally sound. That's for sure. For a big man of his era. Perhaps the most fundamentally sound big man in the history of the NBA. When you look at all aspects of basketball. Now, of course, the big question would be today two things: his health, longevity, and the three-point shot. Now, I tend to correlate a player's ability to shoot from outside with his three-point shooting. His free throw shooting. Although sometimes that's not always the case. Like, for instance, Dale Ellis was not a bad free throw shooter, but he wasn't amongst the elites. He was a 78% career free throw shooter, right? 78%. But he was a great three-point shooter. Most great three-point shooters shoot over 85% from the line. Not all, but most. Scottie Pippen was streaky from outside, but in the second half of his career, he was a respectable three-point shooter. But he was only something around a 66-67% free throw shooter. So there are exceptions. I tend to believe Bill Walton, who I think was a 66, 67, 68% foul shooter, not great, but for the era that he played in for a big man, that was about average. I tend to think he would have developed a decent three-point shot. I don't think he would have had the touch. And I'm just going off of guesswork here. I don't think he would have had the touch that Jokic had. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just tend to think he would have been more, I don't know. It's hard for me to just put a number on it, man. But I would say maybe 33, 34% from outside. I don't think he would have taken as many threes as Jokic. Matter of fact, I'm not even certain if he would have scored as much as Jokic. I don't think he would have. I think a lot of his buckets would have been the occasional outside shot, putbacks, layups, pick and roll scores, things like that. I think most of his points would have came from that. And I think I could see him averaging 17 a game. Because I just don't think that he would be focusing on scoring as much in this era. And he was never like what you would call a ball hog anyway. Now for his era, I think he shot around 53%, 54%. In this era, with everything pushed to the perimeter and really no post defense, really, I think he would shoot something around 68, 69% from the floor, maybe 66% because the three-pointers would kind of bring it down a little bit. But he would have a very high field goal percentage, as most centers do, who aren't really primary scorers, who most of their buckets come from dunks and layups and, things like that. Passing. This is where I think people get it twisted with Bill Walton. back in those days, we didn't have this positionless basketball, right? The offense runs through Jokic, right? Bill Walton was, to me, a more gifted passer than Jokic. I mean, yes, Jokic can pass, but Bill Walton, I'll put it to you like this. The most gifted outlet passer, as far as a big man's concerned, I think that ever played the game was Wes Unseld, right? Even better than Walton. But Walton was top 2, just behind Wes Unseld in outlet passing. So he could play the speed game. He could do that. Excuse me. But he was also great in half-court sets as far as passing. His court vision was unbelievable. It wasn't these give-and-go simple passes, pick and rolls, standard shit that Jokic be doing, simple bounce passes. No. Bill Walton could see a play developing, a potential great play developing before it started. His court vision was, according to everybody that coached him, was something that they had never seen before from a big man. So if we ran an offense through him, and the way that people get cheap assists today, I don't know. I can't put a number on it, man. He wasn't a selfish guy. He was very unselfish. But I can't see him averaging fewer than 8 assists a game in today's game. But I don't think he was a stat padder. Okay? Jokic can pad his numbers sometimes. Bill Walton's one of the most unselfish guys that we ever seen. He was a better rebounder than Jokic. Probably would be either the leading rebounder or top 2 in the NBA. I'm thinking 12 and a half, 13 rebounds, 13 and a half rebounds a game, maybe even 14 rebounds a game in today's NBA. Like I said, 17 points, 7.5 to 8 assists a game. He'd be amongst the leaders in block shots. I understand that block shots are down now because everything's more to the perimeter. Big men don't get as many block attempts, opportunities, but he still would average, I think, over 2 blocks a game, and sometimes even closer to 3, and be amongst the leaders in the NBA. Far better defensive player, better post defender. Far better post defender than Jokic. The main problem would be, I think, his health. It'll be his health. Look, Bill Walton first started having injury problems in high school. I think he had his first surgery when he was a freshman or a sophomore. And this is a guy that wound up having like 36, 37 separate surgeries in his career. And he really only had like a 2 or 3 year window of health with the Portland Trailblazers. And then he only had like really 1 great year with Boston where he was healthy. For the rest of his career, he was hurt. I think he's missed more games, 598 games, than any other player in the history of the NBA. So it's hard for me to gauge Bill Walton. I don't want to play the if game with the health because that wouldn't be Walton, right? It wouldn't be him. Now, I think he wouldn't have a problem at all with the pace of today's game. People forget the pace in the 70s was just as fast. Just as fast as today. Walton was 6'11", about 235. Jokic is he came into the league 285, but I think he's around 260, 265 now. So he's lost some weight, but he still is a kind of a pudgy guy. You know what I'm saying? And that's partially why I don't think that he is a great defender, because playing defense takes something out of you. It just simply does. So at the end of the day, I think Bill Walton will be an all-star. I hate to do this with numbers, man. Because he's an ultimate team player. But I don't know. Maybe 17 points, 13 rebounds, 7 or 8 assists, something along that lines. 2.5 blocks, maybe 3. I think as Walton would get older, injuries will take a toll on him. Maybe with the advancements in science today, he'd be a little bit healthier. But he just seemed to have a proclivity to get hurt. And I guess it was just that, as great a basketball player as he was, he just didn't have the body that was meant to play basketball, like a Greg Oden. Greg Oden, didn't nearly have Bill Walton's peak. But Greg Oden was another guy. He wasn't a bust, per se, as far as his play, but he was a bust because he just couldn't stay healthy. So, my take on it is, if Bill Walton can stay healthy for a consistent period of time, he could be a top 3 player, potentially, in the NBA. And let's be honest, there's certain realities in today's, in sports in general. He's going to get a little bit more press coverage because of one particular thing. We know what it is. So he's going to have some juice. We got to remember, Bill Walton won a championship for Portland, or led them to a championship. And had he not broken his foot, probably would have led them to another championship the very next season. I think they probably would have beaten the Wizards had they played them in the series. They were that dominant team. They were 50-10 when Bill Walton got hurt. And he never played another game for Portland. Got traded to the then San Diego Clippers. Just kept missing season after season. Bunches of seasons. Career like it was over. Got healthy for 1 year. Played with the Boston Celtics. Was a 6-man of the year winner. Won a championship his second. Then he got hurt again. Tried to come back, but it was just over by 87, 88. But trying to think of other things I want to talk about. Bill Walton was political. I think that Bill Walton was progressive, which today would mean that he would probably not even support either political party. In the 70s, the Democratic Party as a whole was more progressive than it is today. Remember, George McGovern was a nominee in 1972, and this was a guy that was running on a campaign of ending the Vietnam War, granting amnesty to draft dodgers, legalizing marijuana. I mean, the Democratic Party was far to the left in 1972, which is part of why Richard Nixon won by such a stunning landslide. Today, the Democratic Party is a shell of what it once was. It's not the party of the little man. It's the party of the elite. They pretend to be the party of the little man, but they're the party of the elite, the elites. And Republican Party is not much better at all. And I just see Bill Walton being political, but more for maybe Green Party, something like that. But I think his politicism would be looked at differently. It'd be a positive spin on it. Although people on the right would attack him. And I think another thing that would hurt Bill Walton, he was a chronic stutterer. So he wouldn't be much of an interview. And, the way that social media is today, they probably would be making fun of him behind that and this, that. Yeah, I'm looking real deep into this shit. You know what I'm saying? So I think he would be appear to be a little standoffish, aloof, wouldn't really do a lot of interviews, stuff like that. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.